This case turns on a question that sounds simple, but isn't. A jury ordered Seattle to pay $30 million, even though nobody was ever charged for the shooting. The shooter was never identified. So the real question is this: when criminal law has no path to punishment, what does a civil verdict like this actually mean? Accountability or something else? That's what this case forces us to confront. This channel is where we take the headline into court, and I don't rule until the end. Now the story. In 2020, during the Capitol Hill organized protest known as CHOP, a 16-year-old boy was shot inside the zone. He didn't die immediately. At the time, the area was briefly referred to as CHAS before later being formally described as CHOP in court records and public reporting. According to testimony, police and fire crews delayed entering the area, citing safety concerns. Volunteers tried to help, but by the time the teenager arrived at the hospital, he was dead. Years later, the shooter remains unidentified. No arrests, no criminal charges. That's where most people stop. But the jury didn't. In the prosecution of this case, the family was not accusing the city of murder. They argued something narrower and legally powerful, that the city helped create a dangerous environment and then failed to respond reasonably when someone was critically injured. In civil court, that means duty, breach, causation, and damages, proven by a more likely than not standard. The jury agreed. That's how you get to the $30 million. But here's where the discomfort really starts. From the defense perspective, criminal law is not designed to fix outcomes. It's designed to prevent the wrong person from being punished, even when something clearly went wrong. That's why the standard is so high. Prosecutors don't just need a tragedy. They need a defendant, a provable act, and proof that clears beyond a reasonable doubt. In this case, there was no identified shooter, no defendant to put on trial, and criminal law doesn't stretch to fill that gap. It stops. That's how you end up with a case that feels deeply wrong and yet produces no criminal charges at all. And yet, still knowing all of that, this outcome still unsettles a lot of people. Now the cross-examination, because here's the deeper issue this verdict exposes. Civil verdicts can impose responsibility, but they do so without identifying a criminal wrongdoer. And that's why the internet reacts like a jury room. You see versions of the same questions everywhere. How can the city owe $30 million if nobody was ever charged? So taxpayers pay, but no one is punished? Is this accountability or just money standing in for justice? Those questions aren't stupid. They point to a real gap. No individual is convicted. No sentence is imposed. Instead, the cost of failure is spread out to the entire community. Money fills the space where punishment would normally sit, not because the system prefers it, but because punishment isn't legally available in this case. And for a lot of people, that's where the discomfort comes from. The sense that the law acknowledged harm, but criminal blame was never assigned. Turning to the law, that tension isn't a bug in the system. It's a design choice. Civil law and criminal law answer two different questions. Civil court asks whether harm should be compensated under a lower standard of proof. Criminal court instead asks whether a specific person should be punished under the highest standard we have. Those systems operate in parallel, and sometimes one produces an answer while the other one can't. When that happens, the law doesn't try to force closure. It accepts an outcome that resolves responsibility without delivering punishment, even when that feels unsatisfying, like in this case. Here's my ruling. This verdict doesn't mean the city committed a crime, and it doesn't mean the jury secretly decided who was morally to blame. Civil justice, yes, acted even though criminal law could not, in this particular case, assign guilt. That's not a loophole. It's a design choice. Money, in this case, replaced punishment. Institutions absorb blame when individuals cannot be proven guilty. That doesn't feel like justice to everyone. I understand why. But legally, This verdict fits squarely within how the system is built to handle unresolved violence and institutional failure. And that design choice, yes, it does come with a cost. Accountability never feels complete. And that's the ruling. Some people will see a $30 million verdict as real accountability, and that's understandable. Others won't, because money doesn't answer every question people have about responsibility and justice. But this is how the law actually resolves cases when facts, proof, and accountability don't line up the way we wish they would. If this kind of legal cross-examination is useful to you, please subscribe. This channel is about slowing the noise down and judging what actually matters. And remember, the truth matters, and so does reasonable doubt. See you in the next one.